Hey everyone, welcome back. So, today we are diving into an important concept in international trade, which is import quota. Ever wondered why you sometimes don't see certain foreign products in the market or why imported good can be so expensive? Well, quota have a lot to do with that. Let's understand how. Before moving ahead, what is import quota? So, import quota is a government imposed limit on the quantity or value of a specific good that can be imported into a country within a certain period of time. So, it's very important to know the definition. If you are writing IBDP examination, a percentage or certain weightage has been given to the definition and it should be included throughout in your long structured answers. So, don't forget to mention it correctly. So, and in other words, if I have to explain the import quota, it is a cap or a restriction on how much of a particular product can come from other countries. So, why would a country do this? So, although the reasons are quite clear to us, but still I reiterate, is to protect the domestic industries. It helps the local businesses by limiting foreign competition. Government generally imposes such kind of quotas in order to help the local industries to get the support and to compete with the foreign product within the country. Another reason could be to control the balance of trade. So I'm not taking my topic towards the balance of trade, but yes, it helps in balancing the trade by limiting the import, and which will definitely help in reducing the trade deficit of the country, the difference between what is imported and what is exported. So this could be one another reason, and another reason is to safeguard the national interest. Sometimes government, some product like food, medicine, or defense equipments are sensitive, and the country may want to rely more on the domestic product. So, keeping all those factor in mind, government put quota. Let's talk about quota in terms of graphical presentation. So, referring to the graph which I have shown over here. Um, Let's imagine an example. Countries set an import quota of 10,000 cars per year from foreign manufacturer. Once this limit is reached, no more cars from abroad can enter to the market for the rest of the year. So this is how the quota, if implemented in a country. Whatever the demand is, the quota decides the limit, and after that, nobody can import the quota. This basically opens up more opportunity for the domestic car maker to sell their own vehicles. So they have an opportunity if there is a higher demand in the market. Once it is satisfied from the quota and still there is more demand, so the domestic producer get an opportunity to produce more product. So how we'll show it graphically, which is always student have confusion how to draw the graph. So this is the basic structure of the import quota. Looking to the graph, price of the car on the y-axis and the quantity demanded of the car is on the x-axis. PW is the world price at which the country is importing the goods and services from rest of the world. So looking to the graph, definitely the country itself is not capable to cater the world price. That is why they are relying on the imports. If I'll see this graph, O to OQ1 represents the supply, the domestic supply. So this is the area where the uh, country itself is producing, the domestic producer itself is producing and meeting the requirement of the country. However, there is a portion where the domestic producers are not capable to meet the demand at the world price. So the imports are from Q1 to Q4. So this is a basic structure where we started with. So we can say it at the free trade. This is what the scenario of the current country at the world price. This is what they are importing. This is O to OQ1. This is what they are domestically supplying the good. Let's say government imposes the quota because of any of the reason which I have discussed just before. And let's take an example, 10,000 cars per year. The moment the 10,000 car being decided by the government, now the new supply curve will come over here, which I am just drawing over here. So looking to this supply curve, this is the supply along with quota. So now the domestic supply will be SD plus Q2, and this shift represents your the quota limit. Now, what is the further impact of this quota? So we will see how the impact or how the quota has been affected the market. Now the new equilibrium will be established at point this which I have just shown you. If you can see this, red dot. All right. Now wherever the demand and supply intersect, the new quantity and the price created in the market. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to draw my quantity, which is Q3, and the new price, which is a quota price, which is PQ. Now we will not operate at the word price. So how it works, listen to me very carefully what I'm going to talk now. It is very important to understand. Whenever the government imposes an import quota, it issue a limited number of import licenses that set the legal maximum for the quantity of a good that can be imported. So very important how it operates, quota, how it works. So only those holding these licenses have the legal right to import the restricted goods. So these license holder earn what are called quota revenue, which I will be showing in the graph in a few minutes, or quota rents, as they purchase the good at the lower world price, which is PW. However, they will sell it at the higher domestic price, which is PQ. So in many cases, the government allocate these licenses to the governments of exporting countries. So rather than doing it itself, they give it to the exporting countries, who then distribute them to their own producers or exporters. So these exporters buy the goods at the world price and sell them in the importing country at the elevated domestic price as the quota rents. That is why it doesn't operate at PW. We go with the new price, which is PQ. So one thing should be clear. As a result, exporters and foreign producer often prefer, when this will happen, definitely the exporter and foreign producer often prefers quota over tariff, since quota allow them to retain these additional earnings, whereas tariff typically transfer revenue to the importing country's government. So definitely you as an exporting country would like to go for the quota rather than tariff. So this you can use as a difference between these two, tariff and quota, if it will come, if it will be there in the exam. Let's see how it further impacts. So now, with the increased price from PW to PQ, the quota price, the domestic suppliers will also show the interest in the market to supply more goods and services at Q2. Right? So now, looking to this graph, I'm going to write or label some areas to understand it better. The producer surplus and the consumer surplus and the impact. Oh, okay. I'll suggest you please attach these, connect these lines with the x-axis and y-axis, better to identify the area. So looking to these area, if I have to quote what is consumer surplus and producer surplus before and after. So let me write the consumer surplus area, which is before, was A plus B plus C plus D plus E. I'm writing single E over here, plus F. So this is at the free trade. But once the quota has been implemented, the consumer surplus left with only A plus B. Very important to identify whenever you write the explanation for this graph. Considering the producer surplus, so before or at the time of free trade, the producer surplus was only G. However, after the quota, now the producer surplus is C plus G. As you can see the area C plus G. I hope it is clear. Let's identify who and what is the impact of quota. So after quota, the domestic producer are better off because earlier they were supplying the goods in the market OQ1. Now they are supplying the good from O to OQ2. The supply has been increased from point, this yellow point, to this red point. If you can see, there is an extension in supply curve within the domestic market. Please be mindful, you have to segregate your explanation in the context of supply or demand is always domestic. However, in the case of supply, you have to segregate it is from the imports or it is within the domestic territory. So in this case, the domestic producer influenced to supply more, and there is an extension in supply from yellow dot to the red dot. I hope it is clear. However, if I'll talk about the domestic employment, definitely will go up as the demand for the labor will increase in order to increase this production within the market. Okay, now if we'll see the next party who will be affected out of it is, okay, looking to the government. Government neither gain nor loses in this scenario because there is no role of a government. Government is not getting any revenue on the basis of quota. Quota is just a limit which they have set, so their role is minimalistic. So they'll remain neutral. Let's talk about the consumer. I just had a explanation that previously consumer surplus was higher, but after quota the consumption has been reduced. So if I have to identify the fall in the consumption, so the area F, if you can see the area F, this one, this is the area which shows the fall in consumption. So previously the quantity which the the consumer were asking was O to OQ4. After the quota, it left only O to OQ3. So the area F is a welfare loss. The area F is one of the welfare loss, which is fall or reduction in consumption because of the implementation of the quota. Another impact of the quota is on the income distribution. So definitely the quotas are generally similar to the tariff in the form of the impact, like it is regressive in nature. So if you'll see PW to PQ, the difference represent higher fraction of income when income is low. Therefore, quota have the effect of worsening the distribution of income. This is one more impact of the quota, which increase the income inequality within the country. Next is increase in the inefficiency in the production. So when I talk about the inefficiency, it is the global misallocation of resources. So looking to this area D represents your global misallocation because the domestic producer were not efficient, but they are protected by the government in the form of quota, and due to which they have diverted the resources toward the production of the car in our given scenario, and they increase the production although they are inefficient. So we call it increase in the production by the inefficient domestic producer. Why they are inefficient? We are aware because they are not able to compete with the world price in their domestic market and even in their international market. So their cost of production is not efficient enough, but still they have been protected by the government. So this is also global misallocation, and the D is also the part of the welfare loss. And the exporting country, now this is something very tricky, whether they are in benefit or loss. So just remember one thing, the area E, which used to be government revenue, the area E, which used to be government revenue in the case of tariffs. However, in the case of quota, exporting countries, the area E represent a welfare loss. How? Exporting countries can be either better off or worse off under an import quota. Similar to the effect of a tariff, producers in the exporting countries faces a reduction in the quantity they can export, leading to loss in export revenue. However, because these countries are often receive import license, they also gain the associated quota revenue. Whether the exporting country ultimately benefit or suffer depends on which is greater, the loss from the reduced export sales or the gain from the quota revenue they receive. So in that case, you will not, we cannot judge over here whether the country will be in the benefit or worse off or better off. However, this E would be a welfare loss because it is the revenue which has been transferred to other countries, right? Because after quota, this is the sales which has happened within the country. However, the return has been generated to the foreign country. So the E is the also a welfare loss. So our total welfare loss will be D plus F plus the area of E. I hope it is clear now. So this is what the quota graph and the impact of the quota